Welcome to our May Life Enrichment. This is our final session for this school year, and we will start back up again in September and hopefully in person. I'm honored to introduce today's presenter, Kate Garns. Originally from Missouri, Kate is a proud Grizzly graduate. After getting her associates at Butler and her bachelor's in music from Wichita State, Kate headed down to the Sunshine State of Florida to work for the Walt Disney Company as a performer. In 2016, Garns realized her dream of becoming a youth motivational speaker. When we're not in a global pandemic, she can be found touring the country, speaking to teens about how to find their worth and their value. Please welcome Kate Garns.
Hey, everybody. Oh my gosh. Words cannot express how excited I am right now. I'm so honored to get to chat with all of you, to get to tell a little bit of my story. From Butler to Disney to a global pandemic. So I wanted to tell you, I want to answer all of the questions that you might have. I know Trisha is going to keep an eye on the chat for, I believe, on YouTube and here. So if you have any questions, please toss them in whatever chat that you're watching this on, because I want to answer them. I want to make sure that you get everything you want from me. So my journey, good night, Lord. So as Trisha said, I am originally from Missouri. I learned about Butler back in 2004. I did show choir in high school, and it was one of the first things that I ever felt like I fit in. It was the first thing that I felt understood. It was something that I loved, and I just dove in head first. And so I can remember sitting at my computer and I Googled summer show choir camp. And all of like the really big like show choir camps of America, they're like $7 million to go to, showed up. And then there was the Butler Show Choir Showcase. And so I applied. I had never been west of Missouri. My mom drove me out to camp, and I remember there was a Dollar General around the corner from the college, and I was like, I'm not ready to go yet, because I didn't know a single person. And so we spent an hour just walking around this Dollar General because I was so nervous to go into this camp. But then I went, and that is when I met the goddess that is Valerie LaPolt Mack and her wonderful husband, Tom Mack. And my life was changed. I spent that week in the dorms, eating in the cafeteria, doing all the things. And it was wonderful. And I knew that was where I wanted to be. So in 2006, when I graduated high school, I went, or right before that, I had gone on a campus visit, and Miss Mack I know now that she did this for everyone, but she made it feel so personal. My campus visit, so personal for me. And she was like, the headliners are going to do a show, even though they were going to do their show anyway, but we're going to do it for you. And it just made me feel like I belonged. So in 2006, I packed up and I moved into the dorms at Butler to become a Grizzly. I was so excited. I love that school so much. And the people that I met there, I kind of dove in head first. I was a tour guide. I was an ambassador. I got to know some amazing people like Matt Jacobs, who I know is watching right now. I believe I met Matt. I was eating in the cafeteria and you were eating with a bunch of other people, and I was sitting by myself, and you were like, you can come sit with us if you want. And so I did, and we've been friends ever since. And so my time at Butler changed me. I was a headliner. I was so grateful to have teachers and coaches who, they weren't afraid to give tough love. They weren't afraid to love me enough to have the hard conversations. I can remember Smack, Miss Smack, we call her Smack, sitting me down and having a hard conversation. Up, like you're acting really immature, and that no one had ever said that to me before. And I still remember that to this day, and I value tough love to this day. So loved Butler. One of my other favorite memories was it snowed, and there was a girl, I think she was on the basketball team, but she'd never seen snow before. And so we went out and we made this like 6-foot snowman outside of the dorms. And it was just so good. Another person I have to shout out to was a gentleman named Gary Royce. He was my advisor. And he is one of the few people that has checked in on me every year. Every time something good has happened, he messages me. When the pandemic hit, he was one of the first people to say, "How are you? What do you need?" So, but we'll get to the pandemic. That's a whole other bag of worms. But Butler taught me how to be loving and how to be kind, and how to accept responsibility. That was something, I mean, I had done that before, but it was a whole different, headliners really instilled a level of responsibility. I mean, no man was left behind. No, you helped clean up. Miss Mack, she really did train us. She trained us to work for Disney. She did, between how we did our hair, like how we looked professionally, our fingernails, our makeup, everything was to train us to work for Disney, was to train us to have that level of professionalism that you really can't find other places, especially not in a show choir setting in college. So, and it was, everyone has a job. Everyone has a job. You don't leave until the job is done for everyone. So when we were done with the show, we helped strike. When costumes needed help, you stepped up. You didn't wait for someone else to jump in. And that, I'm so grateful that I learned that at Butler, because that has affected my career in ways that I can't even, I mean, because I was taught that, I think I earned some opportunities because other people wouldn't. They would come in, especially at Disney, they would come in with an ego. They'd come in with an attitude. I'm not going to help. And like Smack taught us, like, you be friends with the custodians, not just the CEOs. Like, you befriend the custodians, you befriend the teachers, you befriend everyone. You are not above anyone. And that has served me so well, because especially at Disney, because there's a lot of egos at Disney. So Butler taught me to be brave. It taught me to be kind and loving. It taught me to have the hard conversations. I did end up also getting my bachelor's from Wichita State, but I am such a proud Grizzly alumni. I will always support Butler. I will always support Smack in anything she ever asks of me, ever. I have such great memories from the dorms to the cab. I can remember I would always run a little bit late for my 8 a.m. music theory class, because the cafeteria workers knew that I was running in and running out. So they always had an omelet ready for me. And it was so great. And those are the little things. Those are the little things that make the big difference, because they didn't have to do that. And those are the things that I learned at Butler more than anywhere else, that those little things, being kind, looking out for people, that will make a huge difference. That will change somebody's life. And you don't even realize it, because it's little. It's like, oh, well, I was going to make an omelet anyway, so I'll just make one for Kate as she runs in and runs out. I actually remember someone stood up for me one time. I was getting made fun of in one of my classes. And I can't actually remember what I was getting made fun of for, but I ended up walking out. I was like, I don't have the emotional capacity for this. And this girl followed me out, and she stopped me and she said, "You won't let their words affect your worth. We're going to walk back in there and you're going to hold your head high." And Smack, if you're watching this, I don't think I ever told you about that. And I did. And she walked in and she said, "None of you will ever disrespect her again." And it was just like, who does that? Who does that? So it taught me my worth. So anyway, so after Butler, I was lucky enough to be, the camp it's not a thing anymore, but I was lucky enough to be a camp counselor for 2 years. Loved that. So much fun, so tiring, but so much fun. Ended up moving to Wichita and started to get my degree in music education. I got my AA from Butler, and then went to Wichita State for music education, partly because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I loved music. I knew I loved teaching. I knew I loved teens. I wasn't sure how I felt about being a music teacher, but all right, well, this just kind of feels right. Loved Wichita State, dove in headfirst there too. In fact, probably too much so, because I took on way too much, but it taught me a lot. So, and then got to my final semester and I was like, ooh, I hate this. I don't think I want to be a music teacher. I really don't want to do this. I'm going to get my degree because I'd always wanted to get a bachelor's, but I don't think I want to do this. And I found out about the Disney College program. So if you don't know, the Disney College program is a program that Disney puts on that is specifically for college students. You have to have at least one semester of college under your belt, and you come down to Disney and you live on site, and you work and you get college credit and you get paid, sort of. They get paid pennies, but you get paid and you get to experience the parks and you get to learn about business from the Disney company. There's classes you can take. It's really cool. So I found out, man, God is so good, because I was so lost. And I remember calling Smack at one point and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Like, this isn't what I want to do. I have no idea what I'm doing. And she said, just trust the process, trust the process. So found out about the Disney College program. And I was like, you know what? I'll just audition. Like, it's fine. I probably won't get it, but I'll just audition. Because Smack taught us, just go to the audition, just audition. You never know. So I drove down. Oh, and I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to go meet with this advisor. If I pull into the parking lot that there's never, ever a parking spot in, it means I'm supposed to go to Orlando. And I pull in and there's 3 spots right next to each other. And I was like, okay, God, that's fine. I walk in and the advisor that I was talking to was like, oh, I know somebody with a college program. Let me see if I can get them on the phone, but they're usually busy. Can't get them on the phone. So what did I do? Okay, God, if I'm supposed to go to Orlando, and before I could even finish that thought, the person answered the phone. And so now I'm freaking out, because now I'm realizing, oh no, I'm probably going to have to go to Orlando. So I drove to Austin, Texas, did my audition, made it all the way through. They were like, you'll get an email from us at some point. So come back, not really thinking about it, trying not to think about it. I ended up getting in. And the college program works. You can do a lot of things across property. You can do merchandise, you can do custodial, you can do parking, you can do ticket sales, you can do costuming. There's so many avenues, and entertainment is one of them. So January of 2011, I drove my car down to Orlando, and again, didn't know anyone. I'd never been to Florida, hardly. I think I went once when I was like 5. Didn't know anybody, and did it all over again. I felt the same way I felt when I was going to camp, but I knew how good that had turned out. And I moved into my apartment. Now, I have to tell you, these apartments are not great. You live in a 3-bedroom apartment with 6 girls. So you're sharing a room. They're very old. At least they were. They've since built new ones that are even more expensive. But so I moved into this apartment. Come to find out, the girl that I moved in with went to the same high school that my mom went to in Michigan. So wild, small world. And I started my journey with the Disney company. When I started, I was friends with Winnie the Pooh. So a lot of times if you do a certain character, you are friends with them. That's the proper etiquette on how to say it. So when you hear me say that, just know what that means. I started as friends with Winnie the Pooh and did meet and greet sets, and worked all the time. And when I wasn't working, I was in the parks playing. I mean, it was literally the dream. I was 22, 23 at the time. I don't know, numbers, math. It was 22 or 23. And I I was in heaven. That was all I wanted to do. I met some amazing people. And in the fall, so the way that Disney works, we celebrate the holidays 7 months out of the year. So we are in May right now. The phone calls to tell you that you're learning the Halloween parade will probably be going out within the end of this month for Halloween. And then the Christmas phone calls to tell you if you're learning Christmas show or parade go out in July. So we are celebrating the holidays all year long. And I got a phone call. I was in the Monsters Incorporated break room. I was friends with Mike Wazowski that day. My phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. And they said, hey, would you like to learn Teddy Bear in the Celebrate the Season Castle show? And I was like, are you kidding? So I did. That was the first show I ever learned, was just a little teddy bear in the Celebrate the Season Castle show. Oh, and it was, I mean, I think I was on the stage for like a total of 2 minutes of the 15-minute, 20-minute show. But I lived my best life. I do need to mention that there was another headliner alumni, another Butler alumni, Casey Durbin, who was already at Disney. He was one of the princes. He was a couple of princes, actually. And he was one of my go-to. That's one of the amazing things about Butler and about how SMAC creates her program is you really are a family. You really, you can connect with headliners past, headliners present, and there's just a bond there. And so I reached out to Casey, who I really didn't know, and said, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I don't know what I'm doing. And he took me under his wing. And later, and I'll get to that, we ended up doing Castle Show together. And so just the way that, and I've had so many headliners come down to Florida and reach out to me, and I will drop anything to help them, to be with them, and not just headliners, people from Butler who are coming to do the college program, coming to be in entertainment, who will reach out, and I'll say, yes, let's go to coffee, let's get lunch. What can I do to help you? What can I do to serve you? How can I make this not quite as scary? So I learned the Celebrate the Season Castle show right out of that. Okay, I don't know why I thought that I had the clout. I don't know why I thought this, but I said, because I took a year off basically to work for Disney from school. I hadn't gotten my degree yet. I had 1 semester left. I had my student teaching left. Lord help us. And so I decided that I would call my professor at Wichita State and like bargain that I can't believe I did this. I still can't believe I did this. I will come and finish school if you let me do half of it in Orlando. Like I was doing them a favor. I don't know. Y'all. I don't know, but it worked because I did half of my student teaching. I came back to Kansas, did half my student teaching at an elementary school in Andover. I was in Kansas for 10 weeks. And then beginning of March, I came back to Florida and did the other 8 weeks of my student teaching at a high school here in Orlando. In the middle of that, I got a phone call from Disney saying, hey, we want to teach you Voyage of the Little Mermaid, the show Voyage of the Little Mermaid as a puppeteer. So at one point I was teaching in the day, like I was teaching from 8 until 3-ish. I would get a snack and then, or dinner-ish. And then at 7, I would go to Disney for an overnight rehearsal, because that's how, when you learn a show at Disney, we have to clear out the park so that you can be on the stage to learn. So then I would do an overnight rehearsal from like 7 p.m. until 4 a.m., go home, sleep for a couple hours, and then do it all over again. I think I did that 4 days in a row, and I was very tired. I think I was just like a walking zombie. So anyway, finally graduated, and I sure did walk across that stage at Wichita State with Mickey graduation ears on, because yep. And I'm pretty sure that Gary Royce actually, my advisor from Butler, actually messaged me and said, They just talked about on the radio some girl who put on Mickey ears as she walked across the stage. That was you, wasn't it? And I was like, yeah. So moved back down to Disney, moved to Orlando, but worked for Disney. After that, my career with Disney kind of took off. I learned almost every show I could do on property, with the exception of about 2 or 3. I was very blessed. God was so good to me. I learned the Dream Along with Mickey Magic Kingdom Castle show as friends with Mickey. I learned the Fantasmic Nighttime Spectacular as friends with Mickey. I learned the Monsters University show the summer of 2013. I did the day parade. I did the electrical parade. I was really fortunate. I was very, very lucky. As fall of 2012, I went full-time with Disney. I had been seasonal up until that point, went full-time. And I'll never forget getting that phone call, because that at that point was all I wanted. Then I also was super lucky to be trained to do the Mickey that blinks and talks and does things for commercial shoots and live filmings. So I was one of very few people that got trained to do that, which is really cool. I got to be on Good Morning America a bunch of times. I've done a bunch of commercial filmings. I was super, super, super lucky, and always showed gratitude. That was something that SMAC always taught us, was be grateful. Never, always be humble, be kind, and be grateful. Things started to change a little bit. And whenever I talk to entertainment, especially headliners or anyone who wants to go into professional entertainment, I do tell them it's a wonderful career, but you have to have a backbone. You have to know who you are. You have to be comfortable with who you are, because you will be challenged. It has a very dark underside. You will be questioned on your faith. You will be questioned on your morals. You will be questioned on everything. And that was true. And I started to face that. I wasn't expecting that, because that wasn't something that we faced in headliners. That wasn't something that I had dealt with before. And so this dream job that I loved did start to take a little bit of a negative turn. I started getting bullied about being thin. It just became very negative, because when you live your life portraying another character, you don't always deal with your stuff. And so I just realized back in 2016-ish, I had gone through a very tough breakup, a 4-year relationship, and felt very lost, and realized that I had started to become a person that I wasn't. I had started to become very negative. And if I know Gary's watching this, Matt's watching this, Miss Mac's watching this, they can vouch that I am not a negative person. But I started to become very negative and very down on myself and down on others. And I just had a moment literally sitting in the Fantasmic break room where I was like, oh, this isn't it. This isn't it for me. This is not the person I want to be. And it's crazy to me how God shows up in those moments, how God, he will always guide you, which is just wild to me, how, when I look back, how he steered my path, which actually feels good, because right now I'll get there. Anyway, so I ended up in the September of 2016, I went to my high school reunion, my 10-year high school reunion in Missouri. And I was the only one not married. I was the only one not with babies or with a big ring on my finger. And I remember sitting there saying, what did I do wrong? I play dress up for a living. This is wild. And a girlfriend walked up to me, and she said, she could see that I was sad. And these people hadn't usually seen me sad. And she said, well, Kate, what do you want your life to look like? And in that moment, God said, here you go. And I said, I want to be a motivational speaker. And I'd never said it out loud before. And when I tell you that I was instantly, just all of the cloudy and the fog was gone, that's an understatement. And so I got on an airplane and I wrote a letter. And in that letter, I wrote it I said, I am writing to you because you have what I view as success. I know this is what I'm meant to do on this earth. I have no idea what I'm doing. Literally, I couldn't even name motivational speakers. I have no clue. And Smack was one of the people I sent that letter to, Miss Smack. I sent it to about 8 different people, all in the entertainment world, that I viewed as successful. Of the 8 that I sent it to, I want to say 5 or 6 responded and just said, immerse yourself, do what you can. So that was September of 16. And January of 18, I had my first paid speaking gig, and 2019 was my first year as a full-time speaker. I speak to teens. I speak to teen leadership specifically. If like you're getting really, really niche down, I speak to teen leadership, but I do high school and college assemblies, or high school and middle school assemblies, about how to find your worth and your value when nobody shows up to tell you you're worthy or valuable. I speak on, somebody made a comment to you when you were a kid. Someone called you fat, someone called you stupid, someone called you ugly, and that became your truth. And that became the recording that you listened to. And I tell my recordings, and I tell the story of having a dance teacher when I was a kid who told me I wasn't good enough. And then, and that was what I believed until I stepped foot into Smack's tap class. And she said, she made things where I could understand them. And she didn't make me feel foolish. And she made me feel like I belonged. And she helped rewrite that recording. So as of 2019, I have spoken in upwards of 20 different states. I've done 4 national conferences, many state conferences for things like Student Council, FBLA, FFA, all of those student leadership organizations in high school. And then the pandemic hit. I had the biggest talk of my career on March 7th of 2020. It was in California for 2,000 decision makers. So it's 2,000 people who hire speakers. And I was so God was so good. He showed up. You don't usually book that gig until you've been speaking for 8 to 10 years. And I booked it in 2. And it's weird to think, because this was literally 1 week before the world shut down, and we were all hugging each other and dancing with each other. And yeah, I flew home to Orlando for a day before I flew back to Washington to do another state conference. And that was when we started hearing something about a virus. There's something about this virus. We don't really know what it is. I am getting ready to go on stage at Washington, and I get an email that says, hey, good news is you don't have to speak to 900 teenagers on your birthday. Bad news is we're canceling. Because I was supposed to red eye from Washington to Virginia to do their state conference. And that was when things just came to a grinding halt. My career, my life, I went from being very go, 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 go. I DJ on the side. So I was DJing, I was a kickboxing trainer, a choreographer. I still choreograph all over Central Florida and some in the Midwest. And everything stopped. And that's kind of where I am now. And it's been over a year. I have done some speaking virtually. But this has been easily one of the hardest things I've ever walked through. Working so hard to build a career and to build a life that I wasn't a business student. I've never taken a business class ever, but I had created my own company. And I knew that I had made people like Smack and like Gary and like Matt proud. And it felt like a failure. I haven't failed. I am not a failure, but battling that mental block of, well, what do I do now? How do I move forward? So that's kind of where I am now. Is we're still waiting for large gatherings to come back. Oh, I forgot one pivotal thing. 2020 was easily the hardest year of my life, followed very closely by 2021. In September, so I've been with the Disney company for 10 years. I had been at the show Fantasmic for 8 years. I had my locker at Fantasmic since 2013. or 2012, one of those. Anyway, we got an email in September saying there's going to be layoffs and we're going to have to lay off roughly 28,000 people. October, I got my email saying that I was being laid off. And unfortunately, I had just gone seasonal so that I could pursue speaking, meaning I don't get recall rights to come back. If I want to go back, I have to re-audition. And that was so painful. Now, do I think it was God helping me move away from Disney? Because I probably wouldn't have done it myself. Yes, but I had to go back to the things that Smack taught me and the things that I learned from Butler, that like things won't always go the way you want them to. Things might not look the way you want them to, but you have to trust the process, and you have to trust that something bigger than us knows what they're doing. And Smack really instilled that in me. So that's where I am now. As of right now, I do choreograph. I actually have to go to a school tonight to help put their finishing touches on their show. But I'm just waiting for speaking to come back, waiting for people to start hiring speakers to start speaking to their teens again. And I can't wait. Oh my gosh, the first time that I get to speak in front of students, I'm probably just going to ugly cry. And they're going to be like, why is the speaker ugly crying? And I'm going to be like, it's fine. I promise I'm fine. But yeah, that's my journey. In 2019, I published a book called Mixtape: How to Stop Listening to the Recordings of Your Past. You can get it on Amazon. And if you contact me, I can, and you Venmo me, I can send you an autographed copy. So just make sure to contact me. Yeah, and in that book, I talk about Butler, and I talk about Miss Mac, and I talk about my journey through headliners and through Butler. And so all in all, I've been so grateful and so lucky to have walked the path that I've walked. Is it hard to see right now? Yeah, but moments like this that I'm walking through, that uncertainty, this is going to sound silly, I know, but that's why we go to school. Like, that's why we go to college. That's why I went to Butler, is to learn how to handle situations like that. Because college wasn't easy. And having educators like Smack, having people looking out for us like Gary, having people let me sit at their table with them like Matt, it helps to learn how to walk through this time. So I'm so grateful. And is it hard? Yep. Is this the hardest season I've ever walked through? Yep. But yeah, so, I have a question. Gary! Hi, Kate. When you become friends with a character at Disney, do you train for Yes. So it's funny because I don't work for the company anymore. I'm not going to give away company proprietary information, but I can be a little bit more liberal about what I say. So you go through training. You go through a 4-day character core training. So you spend 4 days learning. You don't learn the mannerisms of every single character. I've done upwards of 40 different characters at my time with Disney. I've done a lot of different characters. The big ones, though, they do, especially people like Mickey, Minnie, Chipper, Dale, those VIPs, Goofy, Donald, Daisy, the big 5 or 6 or whatever. You do get extensive training, especially for Mickey, because he is so iconic and he has such an iconic look and an iconic walk, and just a presence about him that, Mickey, he wouldn't have his shoulders rounded. He keeps his chest up. He is always just very, very poised and very, very Walt, very, I do run this place, but I also love you as a person. So I'm going to, and you do learn the autographs. You actually get tested on some of the autographs. Now, are there times where you will be sitting in a room waiting for them to tell you what to do, and they'll say, hey, so we need you to go be friends with Pinocchio. And you're like, oh no, I don't know the Pinocchio signature. And like, as you're getting into costume, you're like trying to figure out the signature. Yes, 100%. Can't tell you how many times that happened to me. But you get trained. I think Minnie Mouse was the friend that came easily to me because she is so bubbly and she is just so welcoming and so loving. Her mannerisms came very, very, very easy to me. Mickey, oh gosh, I miss that mouse so much. I miss Mickey. When people ask me who is my favorite character that I've hung out with, while Minnie came very easily, Mickey, there was just something so magical about him. Even though I was friends with him and hung out with him hundreds and hundreds of times, there was something just so magical about holding my hands out and seeing those gloves and seeing that nose that just never got old. I can remember I was learning Dream Along with Mickey Castle Show, which is the show that I did with Casey Durbin, another Butler alumni. And I had just learned it. We were in overnight rehearsals, and Mickey wears this iconic black tux jacket, but it's covered in black sequins. And I wasn't really thinking about it. I had put on everything and I put on my jacket and I went and I stretched my hands out to like get the jacket to fit. And I saw the black sequins and I burst into tears because it was like, oh my gosh, this is real. This is really happening. And that was one of the first times that, I don't know, it just became, I realized just how lucky I was. And I took that moment when I finished the show. So the way it works is there's a casting department and the casting directors will come and watch a show to make sure that everyone does well, because if you don't do well in the rehearsal process, you don't get approved in the show. And I got done with my show and I exit the castle and it's like 3:00 in the morning. And I run down the side and I see Soroya, who was one of the casting directors. And I like just launched myself into a hug on her, scared her so bad. And I literally was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just wild. So Gary, that was a really, really great question. If you have more questions, I am happy to answer them. Valerie said it's a great book. I've read several times. Thank you for continuing to make us proud. Smack, I owe it all to you. I owe it all to you. Everything I learned, it's the professionalism that you taught us at Butler. So trying to think if there were other fun Disney antics that you see the very best in people and you see the very worst in people, which I kind of get because people spend a lot of money to come up and they don't want to have to wait for things. But I mean, I have stories. I was friends with Mickey Mouse on the castle stage and I totally forgot everything I was doing. All of it. It just went out of my head. So the entire stage is turning and I'm literally just at the front of the stage doing this because I couldn't remember anything. So that happens. This is another thing that Smack taught us, is always have a contingency. If I learned anything at Disney, it's that there is always a contingency. Always, always, always. Yeah, it's, if something goes wrong, there is always a backup plan. And Smack 100% taught us that by having us, we had numbers that if we weren't in them in the headliners, we were the subs and we waited in the wings and you had to know what you were doing. So Smack says, I have tappers with me. They want to know the best audience to speak. You mean who's what's the best audience I've ever had? Where and why was it? Is that what you're asking, Smack? I think that's what you're asking. My goodness. Probably the first national conference I did. Because believe it or not, I wasn't even like the headlining speaker. I was just the lunch cover. Like I was the lunch rotation speaker. So of the 1,000 teens that were there, 500 came and heard me and 500 went to lunch and then they switched. And that I was so nervous. And I can remember they were kind of talking as they were like coming into their seats or whatever. And I was like, amazing. And I put my hand up. And like just a hush fell over the crowd. And I was like, oh, I can do this. And the people that came up to me after, there was one girl in specific, there's a picture of her on my website because someone snapped a picture of this. She walked up to me, tears, And all she said was, thank you. Thank you. I don't know. She said something like, I don't know how you knew, but thank you. And then she hugged me, and someone snapped a picture of that hug, and it was life-changing. Like that was when I knew this is what I was meant to do. And from that talk, mind you, I wasn't one of the main stagers. I was not a keynote. I was the lunch coverage, and I booked 10 state conferences from that. So that was probably one of my favorites, but they're all different. They're so different. And I don't know what it is about Louisiana and Nevada, but they like really like me. I've spoken in those two states many, many, many times, and it's so random, but I love it. Also, hi to all you tappers. Please don't ever stop tapping. I am also a tap dancer. I haven't put on my shoes in a hot minute, but I need to, because that is a part of my soul. From Matt Jacobs watching on YouTube. Kate, you are awesome. Love your energy and compassion for others. Matt, you're just the best. Thank you. I have such a passion for just helping people, even when I feel lost, like how I feel kind of lost in this crazy time that we're in. I just want to help encourage others that it will be okay, and we will get through this. And if you're struggling, it will be okay, and we will get through this. It might take some work, but tappers want to know what you choreograph, and are you still tapping? So I do show choirs. I do show choirs and musical theater. I do about 7 different schools here in Central Florida. I also choreograph for a competitive group out of Missouri. Smack, if you ever want me to come back and choreograph a number for the headliners or for your tappers, let me know. But yeah, so I do mostly musical theater and show choirs. A lot of schools down here, they don't compete in show choir, but they have a big variety show, which is what I'm going to help clean up tonight. I usually do 7 groups or so. This year I only did 4. This year I did 4 schools. And I taught most of it virtually, and that was a big headache. But it worked because we're flexible and we're adapting. So yeah, that's what I choreograph for. If you all have if anybody watching this has any questions, please let me know. I'm here to answer anything that you want to know. Anything that with your walk that you're walking through. I know that this time is hard. This just whether it's if you haven't been able to see family, if you haven't. I know Florida was locked down, and then our governor was like, YOLO, open it all up. So, but it's still, let this sink in. Let this sink in. Somebody told me this the other day. The rising senior class of high school will be the only high school class this coming year that will have spent a full year actually in school. Because their freshman year was fully in school. Their sophomore year is when the pandemic hit. Their junior year has been some kind of a weird hybrid. So the senior class is the only class that will have spent a full year in seats in a high school. So that is why I do what I do. That's why I do what I do, is to just love on their hearts. I'm super passionate about teenagers. I'm actually probably going to start bridging also into the college market because I think college kids need love too. So yeah, so I don't want to take up all of your all's time. If you would like to contact me, I answer every email and every instant message that I get. You can find me on all social media at Kate Garns Live, KateGarnesLive. My email address is kate@kategarns.com. Again, you can get my book on Amazon. And I should donate. I really should. Maybe I'll figure out who to talk to donate one, maybe to the Butler Library. I should do that. So if somebody can tell me who to contact to do that, let me know. And yeah, I know that this time has been crazy, but we're still here, and we're still kicking. So somehow during this pandemic, I've started 2 podcasts. I don't know what are you going to do when you've got nothing to do? You start 2 podcasts. I've started writing my second book that's all about joy, which is wild because this is the most unjoyful I've ever been. But it's about joy and how to find joy when you are at the bottom of the pit, when you are at your lowest. So if there aren't any more questions, I know that I want to be super respectful of all of your time. Tappers who are with Smack right now, I love you. Please keep tapping. If you need any encouragement, please look me up. I'm here for you. I've been there. I've been in your seats. I've been exactly where you're sitting. And I'm here for you. And that goes for anybody watching this. So if you want to know anything else about Disney, I guess I should also add, I do also do a show over at Universal Studios in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I am a 7th year Gryffindor prefect. I direct the Frog Choir. It's very interesting. They talk a lot. So I do a show over there. I'm still technically furloughed. I don't know when they're going to bring us back. It's a dumpster fire down here in Orlando right now. So, but okay. If there's no other questions, you all are wonderful. Trisha, I'll hand it back to you.
Kate, thank you so much. I love your spirit. Such an uplifting presentation. Thank you. Anybody who wants to become a member of Life Enrichment, I encourage you to go to butlercc.edu and search for Life Enrichment and join us. And we will be back in the fall and hopefully in person. Again, thank you so much, Kate. It was a joy to have you.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. Have a great day.